I'm Liam, and today we're going to be talking about robot control logic. Now, this is a very complicated field, so this is only going to be a very shallow look at its basics, and I encourage everyone here to look more into it on their own time. And we're going to do lots more examples because it's quite hard to understand. It's like learning a new language, but I'll give it my best shot to demonstrate basic application. Okay, so in front of us, you can see a basic program. Now, this program does not work. Now, what this program is trying to do is it sets the robot's motors, and then it starts moving forwards. And then if the robot color sensor sees the color red, then the robot stops moving. Now, you might think that that sounds like it's going to work perfectly. The robot's going to drive forwards until it sees red. But that's not what's going to happen, because let me show you what the robot is going to do. The robot starts, when the program starts, it sets the motors, it sets the movement speed, and it starts moving forwards. Now, at this point, the robot continues. The robot checks to see if the color sensor sees red, and it checks this once. And it's like, is the color sensor seeing red? Well, you generally would start it on just the playing field, which is like white or something. So it's no, the color sensor does not see red, which means that the stop moving block does not activate, and there's nothing after it, which means the program ends, and the robot just continues moving forever. And if the robot eventually does have the color sensor see red, nothing is going to happen, because the robot only checks once to see if the color sensor is checking red. Because this block, this if statement, it only checks once. When the program reaches it, it checks it. And if it's true, then the block inside runs. And if it's not true, then it just skips over and does the blocks after it. But that is not what you want. That's not what this program wants. What this program wants is it wants the robot to wait and keep checking repeatedly if the color sensor sees the color red. And once the color sensor sees the color red, only then does the author of the program, the coder, want the program to stop the robot. Now, how we communicate this to the program is by using a different block, the wait until block. And if I reassemble this program will work. The robot will set the movement motors, set the movement speed, start moving forwards, and then wait. And every time the robot updates, every time it like cycles, there's a clock inside the robot, and every time the robot does one of these loops, it keeps on repeatedly checking, am I seeing the color red? Am I seeing the color red? Am I seeing the color red? And only once the robot sees the color red will it continue and stop moving. Now, this was just a basic example. There's many more blocks that you can use. For example, there's this if-then-else block, which this will also not work because it only checks once. And if you have a stop moving block in here, this program will not work. And this if then else block, it's generally a good idea to use this, but in loops. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But for example, say you want the robot to constantly flash a light until it sees the color red. Well, you can use this block, the repeat until, which is essentially a wait until, except it also lets you do blocks inside of it until you see a color. And this is useful in other applications. Now, you might be thinking, well, then what's the point of these if blocks if they're useless for linear, for the codes that we're writing? Well, they are useful in loops. So, for example, we have a forever loop. And then in this forever loop, once it reaches the bottom, it will go back to the top. And every single cycle, it'll try and get through the entire loop. And then you can put an if-then block inside, and then you can have a sensor, and you can have the robot stop its movement. So this code will also have the robot drive until it sees the color red and then stop. And it's not exactly the same as the example previously that I listed, and it takes more blocks and is generally less elegant, but it will still work. And then by using a loop, you can have things happen after this if statement. You can use the if-else block, and you can have more complex chains, and this is also useful if you want human input. And there's many different things you can do with robot control logic. It's probably the most complex part of robot programming, and this video is already long enough, so I'm just going to cut it off here, but you should definitely look into it in the future. There's tons of stuff you can do. Make sure to look through your programs, debug properly, but just in general, the wait until block is your friend for basic program controlling. Use this one. Do not use the if block. The wait block is your friend. The if block is not. Just for now. Okay, if that makes sense, thanks for your time, everyone, and that'll be this video.